Welcome in, everybody, to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast. Your host here, Billy Muzio, alongside Jody Smith. And tonight, we're just going to jump into it tonight, Jody. We're going to talk our top 6 must-draft rookie wide receivers. We're going to touch base on best ball. We're going to touch base on redraft. We're probably going to sprinkle in some dynasty, but these are some receivers that we absolutely want to own shares here in the 2022 season, and we'll go through them. We'll list why. We'll talk about what metrics we like, what they have, their team fits, their size, their abilities, as well as what their vacated targets may be and what we could expect in terms of fantasy production out of them for year one. Jody, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Oh, a lot better than I was last week. That bachelor party that us old guys rustled off to a couple of weeks ago was kind of rough on all of us. So I don't recover as well as I did. So I appreciate Josh filling in last week. You guys did an outstanding job going over stuff last week. Did a good job. So glad that he's not, coming on a permanent basis to run me out of here.
Yeah, a lot of analytics based last week. It's a nice mixture of analytics and film, and we ran through all those guys. But let's just jump in tonight. Let's give the people what they're here for. Why don't you start with your one of your 3 must-own wide receivers for 2022 season?
Well, when looking at them, I looked at it from perspective of doing this offseason, if you want to call it offseason, early on here, in the summer. And for the most part, most of my dynasty drafts, I'm usually like 10th or 11th or 12th or, 8th. I usually can field a pretty competitive team. So I wanted to look at not the obvious guys towards the top. I wanted to look at the back part of round one. And in looking at that, there was a couple of guys that really interested me. First is Chris Olavey for New Orleans. I think he's walking into a good situation. Obviously, with the Saints, shoot, if anything, he could be their number one receiver because, Michael Thomas, we don't really know what to think about him after sitting out all of last year. The hesitation I have with Olavey is Winston, because Jameis Winston was great in the part that he played last year, but when you take out Sean Payton, it's a major concern for me. So I'm not sure what to think of the Saints. I'm glad that they're in win now mode, and for the most part, given this choice here, like I said, in the position that I've been drafting 8, 9, 10, I generally am going to take Olavey. But the guy I want to talk about, Skye Moore, actually went just after. Who was it that he went after in round one?
Anyway. Sorry, I'm sipping my coffee.
Yeah, we're both taking it easy today. I'm on water and you're on coffee.
Yeah, I have to go to work in a couple hours.
So Skye Moore, Andrew Erickson, a good friend of ours, good friend of the show, has been hyping him up. And in one of my dynasty drafts, he actually just wrote up. He actually traded up just to get in front of me so he could take Chris Moore. But anyway, I'm looking at Chief Moore. Skye Moore, he's walking right into a great situation and a fantastic offense with the Chiefs. And Billy, as you wrote up last week at Full-Time Fantasy, you did a terrific job going over all the vacated targets and percentage of air yards that were vacated. And that was a fantastic article. Everyone should check out. The Chiefs have the most vacated targets in the NFL at 360. Of course, the big portion of that is the big gaping hole that is Tyreek Hill now residing in Miami. But there is the role potentially for Skye Moore as the number one receiver. The Chiefs signed Juju Smith-Schuster. I envision him remaining in the slot. Their other perimeter receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, still, as far as I can tell, it's still a situational deep threat. That allows a talented guy like Skye Moore, who has inside-outside flexibility and versatility. He can line up in the slot. He can line up on a perimeter. He's fantastic at getting off the line of scrimmage and creating space. Pro Football Focus rated him as their number 4 overall wide receiver last year, and in showing how versatile he is as a route runner, and especially in the short to medium part of the field. He was 6th in Pro Football Focus's ratings against zone coverage. That should come in handy for these defenses that kind of did that little cover 2 shell last year to slow down Kansas City for a little while. That's something that would work out really, really well for Skye Moore. But he also ranked 4th, according to Pro Football Focus, with 3.60 yards per route run versus man coverage. So you're talking about a guy that is able to find gaps. He's fine. He's able to get open versus man. He's able to get open versus zone. Overall, great speed, size combination. I like Skye Moore. I think he's got a real potential to be the Chiefs' number one receiver. Travis Kelsey turns 33 in October. We could start to see him actually, take a step back. And when you're looking at ADP, Chris Olave is according to Fantasy Pros, ADP is going around 48 to 50. And Skye Moore's an entire round later. He's 60, 61, somewhere in that range. So I like that value at that point. And in my early look at projections and whatnot, I think Skye Moore's the kind of guy who's going to put up a handful of big games. I have him as being, a pretty good best ball investment, a guy that's going to put up 3, 4, 500-yard games, and it's totally possible. It's hard to see him not getting triple-digit targets, and you get a guy with his skill set, his ability to get open. Kansas City's offense with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. He's just a guy that if my dynasty drafts fall my way, I'm going to, exit as many first rounds as I can with him.
Yeah, his value in the FFWC has been pretty good value too, especially given the team stack that he is on. We see him going around 10, around 11 at the FFWC in these early best ball drafts. This is the super flex. So you're going to take out a couple quarterbacks. He's going to swoop into the 9th and 10th round there once we get out of super flex. But typically going around wide receiver like 48 to 52 out of drafts over at the FFWC. And I like the kid's talent, right? He just, has incredible speed, quick footwork. He can create space with his excellent route running. So this is what the Chiefs need, was a route runner, right? Because they have speed already. They already had the Hardman. They already had the burst, and they already have MVS. So the footwork here is what's going to separate him from the other players on this field and is going to give him, more opportunities. What are you thinking for 2022 in terms of redraft purposes? What are you thinking he's going to finish as a wide receiver prospect? Are you going to say wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4? Does he have wide receiver 2 upside? What's your initial take?
He probably has weekly wide receiver 2, 3 upside, but he's going to be, when we get into projections real heavily here, he's probably going to be, for me, right around the ADP I listed. Probably I'll have him higher than 60. So you're talking about wide receiver 4 or 5 range. And again, that's about where his value is. And like I said, I think he's in a pretty good situation. And I currently project him to actually, easily be their starter from the perimeter. And then, I'm not sold on Mecole Hardman. So, maybe there's a split between him and MVS, because again, that's another guy that, never really proved it to us in Green Bay. So.
Okay. I like it. Mine's a little bit more straightforward here, and I'm going to start off by saying Drake London. And I want to say, one, he is a redraft target for me as well as a best ball target for me. He was the first wide receiver selected off the board, pick 1.08. I mean, he's in an excellent combination of just size and speed. He, came in at 6'4", 214 pounds. I mean, he is the prototypical X receiver that, most wide receivers or most teams that are looking for in a receiver. He continuously beats double teams. He has that large frame. He's able to box out defenders and shield them out of contested catches. And he consistently wins those 50-50 balls. On top of it, he's got pretty damn good ball tracking skills as well with leap timing. Like, overall, he was one of my top wide receivers in this draft class, alongside Wilson, who I thought was just a great route specialist. But I look at his role and immediately steps into like a wide receiver 1 role in this Atlanta Falcons offense. The thing I like about him over players like Burks and other, high drafted wide receivers in this draft class, were that he has somebody to take off that pressure off him, so he has Kyle Pitts running on the side with him. He's going to take off pressure across the middle of the field. And you mentioned the vacated targets I posted earlier last week. Falcons have the 5th most vacated targets in the league with 238. That's 42.88% of their team's target share that's available for the taking. I mean, we all know they lost Ridley during the suspension. He's only competing against players like Auden Tate, Olamide Zaccheaus, Damiere Byrd. I mean, you can just name the amount of crap that's on this roster that he has to compete against. And a way I look at it is he's not going to come off this field. I expect London to contribute immediately. I really do. I mean, this passing game, I think he should be a pretty solid wide receiver 2 on a weekly basis, especially in best ball where he's going to have some spike weeks. But, for redraft purposes, I think he's going to make a very intriguing play. And I think, he's probably going to come along a little slow in the beginning as they create that rapport with the quarterback and what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. That's kind of to be determined and to keep an eye out for. But he's being drafted in FFWC between wide receiver 35 and wide receiver 40, going kind of in that 7 to 8 round draft pick range inside those drafts. And I think at that price, with the upside that you have from him, especially with a touchdown upside, that's why I like him in best ball. Like, I think that the touchdown upside that he has on a weekly basis with that size frame, I think it's going to pay dividends.
Yeah, that's a pretty good range to be able to get an undisputed wide receiver 1 that late at FFWC drafts. And you're talking about they're going to see a lot of good game scripts because, what are the Falcons projected to win? We talked about that last month. What was it? 4 games? Actually, were they up like 5 or 6? Regardless, you're talking about one of the worst offensive rosters in football easily. So it's hard to see the Falcons being real competitive. So they should see a lot of, favorable game scripts. I don't see anyone else emerging as that team's number 1. And, what's your take on how many targets he's going to get? What do you look? You got to look at like 120.
Yeah, I haven't. So you and I are going to be hopping into projections here, and Atlanta's going to be one of the first teams we do because I usually go alphabetically. But I don't know. Are we going to go alphabetical, or are we going to go by conference? I don't think we've decided that.
I generally do, just like you said. I just start with Arizona and
work your way down.
The Magic after that.
So yeah, so it'll be one of the first teams we do. I'm going to assume 120 is probably realistic. I usually like to do like a floor projections, a median projections, like a ceiling projection, right? And I'd say 120 might be the floor, quite frankly. Like, that's how many targets are available in this offense. And when you go out and select somebody with, the first wide receiver off the board, you expect to use them quite a bit year 1. So I'm going to probably say 120 to 140 is realistic in targets for year 1. And that's going to put him on the wide receiver 2 map here. And at round 7 through 8 in start 3 wide receiver, that's a steal in my opinion. All right, who's your number 2?
Why don't we look at the guy who actually was taken 1 spot ahead of Skye Moore? That's Alec Pierce in Indianapolis. It's another guy. A key point that we've talked about, Billy, is opportunity. And I'm looking at Indianapolis, and I see a vapid opening for Alec Pierce to walk right in and be the perimeter starter in place of T.Y. Hilton. And I feel like with Pierce being flexible, we'll talk about that in just a second, even if T.Y. Hilton were somewhere re-signed, and I don't see why they would be interested in him, I think Pierce could move right into the slot. And so I project he's going to start for them. But like I said, he was taken number 53 overall, 1 spot ahead of Skye Moore. The Colts also lost Zach Pascal, if anyone's concerned about him, even though he was one of the least efficient receivers in football last year on a lot of the charts. But like I said, the Colts, they just have this opening. Right now, their depth chart is what's this?
They have Pittman.
Oh, bad. Yeah. No, Michael Pittman's great, but I'm talking about opposite him. Desmond Patton, Ashton Doolin, Kiki QT. These are guys these are guys that aren't even getting drafted for the most part. I think they're going to run a lot of 12 sets, and I'll be interested in how many with Mo Alley-Cox and Jelani.
Come on, you forgot Paris Campbell. Come on.
Well, he's projected to be their slot guy, but you're talking about a guy that's missed 80% of his games. Yeah. He's hard to rely on. I project right now that Pierce is going to start on the perimeter outside with Pittman, and Campbell will generally be, for the most part, be your wide receiver 3 if he can get on the field. You're looking at vacated targets. It's again, the Colts had the 7th most vacated targets from inside the 10-yard line. So you're talking about they're going to be improved in that area now, because look at the size of these receivers that Matt Ryan, who should be a huge improvement over Carson Wentz as it is. Look at the size of the receivers on the outside. Alec Pierce is 6'3". Michael Pittman is 6'4", 6'5". Mo Alley-Cox is 6'6", I want to say. Jelani Woods, the other tight end, if they run 12-6, 6'7". He's a monster. Alec Pierce, great size. He's 6'3", 211. He ran a 4.41. It's a 95th percentile speed score. He also had a 94th percentile speed burst score. He's able to get open. Like I said, he has inside-outside flexibility. He also has a 98th percentile catch radius. The dude, he's got big arms. He's going to make a great, intriguing target for, Matt Ryan. While he wasn't hugely productive at Cincinnati, it's because he was situationally used mainly as a deep threat. I think he can be a lot more than just that. I think he actually is really, really good at creating space in an intermediate area. And I think that's a perfect example of how I expect him to use. And looking at his rookie ADP, he's right there towards the latter part of round two. Or Dynasty League Football has him at wide receiver, overall player 21 in rookie only drafts. But in Fantasy Pros ADP, he's 99. So he's going way later in these drafts. And from everything I'm looking at early on, I'm projecting him to start. I think the Colts are going to be the AFC South champions. We talked about that last month. It should be a vastly improved offense overall. And I think he's walking into a great situation. And I love, if you can get him in the top of the third round, even better. But I love exiting, round two with Pierce. Because like I said, I have him plugged in as a starter. And again, your objective in these rookie drafts is identifying opportunity, and all the guys we're going to talk about today are walking into pretty favorable situations.
So redraft purposes, where are you putting him on the map?
He's like that. So again, like I said, my early indication is he's going to be their starting wide receiver 2. So he'll be one of the, lesser wide receiver 2. So, I would have him behind Skye Moore in the simple things. Looking at, there are a few. While I think Matt Ryan's going to be better than Carson Wentz, there's a little bit of concern that maybe Matt Ryan could decline a little bit. I think it's a good coaching staff, and even if he does, they'll be able to coach around that, and he'll probably turn the ball over a lot less. And this will probably be the best weapons that Matt Ryan's seen in a long time. But he's a guy that in a redraft league, he's a guy I'd like to scoop up in, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th round, somewhere late where you got a lot of casual people that aren't paying any attention at all and aren't going to be aware of who he is. And, he's just one of those guys that's down in that part of the draft that I want to walk away with.
So the FFWC does not have the casual players, right? Some of the best players in the world. Where do you think, without looking at the board, where do you think he's being drafted right now? So you had mentioned a couple of rounds where you'd swoop him up. Where do you think he's being drafted right now at the FFWC?
Oh, by you smart high stakes guys. I don't know. Where's he going? Somewhere between the 9th and 11th round. So 10th round.
Yeah, he's going between like 10 and 11. Yep. He's going wide receiver 73, 75-ish off the board.
So, like I said, the number I quoted from Fantasy Pros is 99. So exactly, you're taking high stakes people who know what they're doing. Move him up 20 spots. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I like the talent a lot, right? He's just uber athletic. Like you mentioned his athletic scores and what he had. Like that's 4.41 speed. He's got the size, the frame, the separation. He reminds me, he has a lot of the same physical traits as Drake London, but with a little bit more speed, in my opinion, right? And I think that it's going to be a perfect fit. You look at all these big bodies, like it just seems like Indianapolis is just going out and it's like, you know what? We're just going to tower over everybody, right? We're just going to throw out everybody on the field, 6'3" or taller.
Yeah, they got all these monsters. Like
they do. Like you could just Jelani Woods just going to pick someone up with one hand. Like
while we're on the Colts, I was going to tweet this earlier. I was going to ask, can anyone give me sell me the case for Mo Alley Cox ahead of Jelani Woods? Because I can't really find one.
Yeah, he's already been in the system. 1, 2, Johnny Woods. It's always tough for rookie tight ends to perform year 1, right? So I think it's not just how athletic can he be, and yes, he's a great receiving tight end, but there's always blocking assignments. This is the reason why people are going to be not on the field as often as people would like them to be as a rookie for the tight end position, because they're realistically learning 2 positions, right? They're learning blocking assignments and route trees. So Jelani Woods is going to take a little bit of time to learn those blocking assignments, learn to block a little bit better for the NFL, taking on some bigger defenders. He'll probably be utilized in special packages and red zone packages and in special situations, 50-50 jump balls, third down contested catches, those type of scenarios. But I expect Mo Cox to be on the field more than him in 2022. I'd say more of a rookie dynasty play. I think Jelani Woods is the answer, of course. But in terms of redraft, I'd probably lean Mo Cox this year.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised in looking at that this week that Mo Cox is about to turn 29 this year. I was kind of surprised because, he wasn't able to beat Jack Doyle for years. So I think we all are kind of under the impression that Mo Cox is still in his third or about to enter his fourth season. So I was kind of surprised to see he's already going to turn 29.
Yeah, it's the other piece too. People forget they have Kylan Granson on the roster, right? And Kylan Granson, which I think might see the field a little bit more in 2022, because especially if why am I blanking on his name? The slot receiver. Thank you. If Campbell's not able to see the field as much, because in college, Kylan Granson ran 55% of his routes out of the slot, and he's an undersized tight end, so he can actually create mismatches as well, running across the middle. So I'd be curious to see how they involve him this year, if he's going to be involved at all, or if, they're just going to move in Jelani Woods altogether. So it'd be interesting to see what they do in that. Okay, back to wide receivers. My number 2, I'm going to start here, is Wanda Robinson. And for me, Wanda Robinson, this is much more of a best ball target than it is for me as a redraft target, just because you're going to have you're taking him in like round 20, round 19, round 18, round 17, wherever. He's starting to creep up boards now that he was selected in round 2. But for a while he was cheap. Like you were like, you had to like take him above ADP to take him in round 20. Like he was going around 22, 23 in some of these early drafts, to where it just wasn't being drafted because people were afraid of his size and where he was going to be drafted and landed, and everything worked out for him. But I mean, he's being labeled as a slot receiver due to size, and I think that would be just an underestimate. You're underestimating his abilities as a receiver as well as a rusher. I mean, he is super explosive. I mean, when you talk about his athleticism, he has the versatility to play wide receiver and running back. I've been calling him like Little Debo, right? Because he's not the man like Debo is, but he's able to really just he's like that versatile where he can play both positions. I mean, he is fast as fast AF, right? Confident. He's slippery, and he plays with a toughness and competitiveness that you just don't see from people that size. It's just a very unique combination of speed and versatility. I mean, he has the speed to take it to the house. Just such a wide range of talents that can be used in creative schemes, and in the NFL, I expect him to fully utilize his skill set. And you look at him in open space, right? This is where he excels. He's creative. He has excellent vision. He has the ability to just slip out with his feet. If he gets in trouble, his great acceleration, change of direction. He can change super fast. And you look at where he landed. Like to me, like I was shocked that the Giants took him this early. Like pick 43 in this draft. I don't think people were expecting that. And this is a pretty needy wide receiver core. I mean, we've been talking vacated targets all night because opportunity is king in the NFL, and they have the 6th most vacated targets with 220. 39.22% of the team's total target share. And now you add in the mix of like Sterling Shepard, right? What's his recovery time? Is he going to make the roster? Is he going to be cut? Like we don't know, right? So that being said, like that's another 53 targets that could be distributed amongst this core. That's a lot of targets as well. So you also look at, I just mentioned, like he has the versatility to play running back as well. Can you list me the running back that plays behind Saquon Barkley on this roster?
Oh man, I just saw that earlier this week. It is was in Buffalo last year.
Yep, Matt Breida.
There it is. Yeah.
So
forgetting the name, but yeah, I just saw that.
So you look at, there's literally nobody else there. So my expectation is that they were comfortable adding Breida, knowing that they were going to draft Wanda Robinson, probably utilize him with his versatility and throw him in the backfield a couple times, jet sweeps, whatever it may be. So I fully expect Wandale to continue that hybrid role that he had in college in the NFL level. I mean, Robinson's going right now, like I said earlier, rounds 20 to 22 in best ball drafts, and he's projected to be, in my opinion, like a wide receiver 3/4. And you can get him that late with that much upside. Like to me, he's going to contribute his rookie season more than people are expecting to, especially with those spike weeks where we're just talking about how versatile he is, how explosive he is. He's going to have some plays where he's going to take it to the house. I mean, he's going to have weeks where he probably puts up wide receiver 2 numbers in fantasy. And to me, like that's the perfect best ball candidate. And he's being drafted like as, between in FFWC now after the draft, he's being drafted as wide receiver 75 through 80. So that same like Alec Pierce range, and like round 17 through 18. So that's for 3-start wide receiver. Excellent value. Who's your next one?
Oh, for my final, wide receiver, I find myself trying to walk away from drafts with. I wanted to dig a little deeper, so I went to the 4th round, and Danny Gray got drafted by San Francisco, and he was an SMU kid. He didn't turn a lot of heads necessarily at school, kind of flew under the radar, but speed. This guy brings an element of 4.33 speed that was completely missing from San Francisco's receiving core last year. And I think that's why they drafted him in the 3rd round. Outside of Debo and Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco doesn't really have, a lot of wide receivers that you're really that interested in. I mean, right now they're projected with Jawan Jennings is projected to be their number 3. I don't see how you don't invest a 3rd round pick on a guy. And this is a team that's kind of built to win now. You invest a 3rd round pick on a guy when you had other needs that, you're probably not going to sit him. So I think there's a really good chance that Gray is their wide receiver 3. And right now, we know with Debo's kind of at a contract impasse, so we're not real sure. This is an opportunity for Gray to come into camp and start earning a lot of targets, start getting a lot more reps and all that. But he does have a little experience, from the slot. He ran almost 11% of his routes at SMU from inside. He excelled at quick hitch routes. He was able to quickly snatch the ball and turn the balls up, turn his head, get his feet moving upfield. He was able to turn these short and intermediate throws into big gainers, of course, with 4.33 speed. Not unusual to see that. He was 10th in FBS last season with 8.6 yards after contact per reception. So this is a kid that's, like I said, he's taking these quick slants, these hitch routes, these movements like that, and he's able to quickly turn upfield. And that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan coveted this offseason, looking for a wide receiver that could really stretch the field and open things up for Debo and for the running game and all that. That's why I like Gray as such a good fit. And he also he's plus kick return, punt returner, and he scored 9 touchdowns in 10 games for SMU. Got a good feel for the end zone. And again, like I said, this is a 4th round of rookie draft. So, he's basically not even being drafted in most redraft leagues. He's probably not even you high stakes guys, FFWC. Is he making a cut?
Round 20 usually.
Yeah.
He's going like 90, like wide receiver 95 to 100.
Right. So you're talking about, just a final, what the hell? So
start throw.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want in that area. And especially in something like best ball and in high stakes game, you want a guy who has the potential to come in and break a few long touchdowns. He's got a, pretty open path to immediate playing time and a 3rd round pedigree. And like I said, he's got that 4.33 speed that is totally missing from San Francisco's receiving core.
Yeah, that's definitely an element that this team needs. That field stretcher to take off the pressure across the middle of the field. I think you also hit the hammer on the nail. Like the special teams, right? The punt returns, the kick returns. That's where they're going to utilize him as well. That lightning speed to get down the field. And I agree with you. Round 20, that late. I mean, you're looking for upside here. Like, what happens if Debo gets traded? Like, I don't expect it at this point, but if it did happen, like we've seen crazier shit happen in the NFL this year, right? We've seen Devontae Adams get traded. We've seen Tyreek Hill, go to a new team. Like, there's been so many things that have happened to shaking up the NFL this year. If Debo does leave, Danny Gray is going to jump up. Right. He's going to be probably drafted 4 or 5 rounds higher just because of the available targets that are there and the opportunity is going to be there. Plus, everyone's always intrigued by speed, especially in a Shanahan offense. So I like that pick. I have only added a couple shares myself in best ball, but I'm going to make sure I start adding a couple more because I think that to me is probably more of a best ball pick. If you're in, redraft leagues, you can throw them on your last pick in your round, and if it doesn't work out, you can replace them as well. So I think it could go both ways, redraft and best ball.
I mean, standard redraft league, if you're playing with more casual people, you're talking 15, 16 rounds. I mean, you can honestly just consider him a waiver priority at this point. But he's a guy, like if you're drafting, you're smart. If you're drafting late in August or early September, you watch him throughout camp. Watch the amount of playing times he's getting. Watch the amount of targets when he's on the field that he's getting. And if he's somebody who actually is competing for that wide receiver 3 role, or like you said, if Debo somehow isn't there or he's still holding out, then yeah, you definitely want to start looking at him somewhere after around 12, 13.
Kev says, did I reach too far taking Wandale in the 14th last night? No, I don't think so, man. I like Wandale. So I'm higher on Wandale than most people, though.
I haven't had a chance to draft Wandale yet. The only time I think he was on the board, I took Jalen Tolbert. Not Tolbert. Maybe it was Tolbert.
For Dallas?
Yeah. That's who it was. I had a choice between two of them, and I went that route. But that had more to do with quarterback than anything else.
Yep. All right, my last player tonight, and again, I kind of took the easy route here, but this is someone who I'm targeting like actively in drafts. Like I'm targeting actively in high stakes, in those middle rounds. I'm targeting actively in best ball high stakes. Like this is one of those rookies that I think I'm going to own quite a bit of, and I didn't necessarily like his tape, but the landing spot and the opportunities creates such an advantage for him to get put up numbers here in his rookie season. That's going to be Treylon Burks. I mean, Treylon Burks, he has the ideal speed and size ratio you like to see in the NFL. Big and physical target, good athleticism, strength, and body control. He runs pretty smooth for his size, adequate turn acceleration. He's actually a former All-State outfielder. I don't know how many people knew that, but that's where you can see it in his ball tracking skills. He can track that deep ball. And when you look at his player comps, a lot of people had him comped to A.J. Brown. And what happened? They trade A.J. Brown. They draft Treylon Burks. So they must have seen it too, right? Titans took him with the 18th overall pick. But he steps into this wide receiver 1 role for this team. And we talk about little to no competition. There's nobody here in Tennessee as well. But Bob Woods coming off injury, great. Austin Hooper at tight end, okay, well, BFD, right? Tennessee has the second most vacated targets in the league, 336. That's the only one that's even close to Kansas City, like you mentioned earlier. 64.25% of their target share is up for grabs. And, I mean, his current ADP at the FFWC is ranging from, like, wide receiver 36 to 40. He's typically being drafted in that round 7 through 8 round. Like, if you can grab him as your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, the upside that he has on a weekly basis to finish as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 upside on week to week, anytime, especially with those spike weeks in best ball. Like, I love his ADP. I love his landing spot. I mean, I understand this is a run first team. I truly do, but somebody has to catch the ball, and it's going to be Treylon Burks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's it, right? That's all 6.
Yeah, we powered through it.
We did. It was a short podcast tonight. Well, everybody, I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be dissecting the NFL schedule here that's released right now. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but I'm going to be dissecting that tonight. I'm going to be talking about the schedule and how to utilize the schedule to maximize points in best ball. We're going to use FFWC ADP. We're going to talk about the schedule and how to stack, how to build mini game correlations, and how to maximize those points. So come on in. Tomorrow, it's going to be 4:30 Eastern, so 1:30 Pacific time for all of those who are on Pacific like me. And we're going to be jumping into that and discussing best ball and schedule. So we'll see you then. Have a good night. And thanks for joining.